To the Israelites, undoubtedly the ark was their most sacred religious object, for it served as the footstool of the true God, and his divine presence was once visible there. Within the Ark of the Covenant were contained the 2 tablets upon which were written the 10 Commandments, Aaron's rod that budded, and a pot of manna that once fed the Israelites during their long wilderness journey.
The Israelites believed that the Ark of the Covenant was responsible to allow them to walk across the Jordan River when it was miraculously dried up. The Ark of the Covenant was used when they surrounded the city of Jericho 7 times. The entire city fell into the ground, as archaeologists have verified. The Ark was used in battle after battle, and won victory after victory for the Israelites.
For 500 years, the Ark was the most precious and sacred object in the world. The children of Israel followed it into battle and into the Promised Land. As long as the people could see the Ark, they knew God walked among them. For 6 days, the line of march went silently around the great walls, except for the sounding of the trumpets by the priests. Then, on the 7th day, the host made 6 courses around the wall in complete silence. But at the end of the 7th march, now we've seen the biblical story of the destruction of Jericho's walls. Is it possible that science can shed any light on the mystery of how it might have happened? And can they tell us when it happened by astronomical dating?
Ancient people did not have clocks and calendars as we have today. They looked at the sky to tell time. Any date that was given was based on the phases of the moon, or the sun, or a combination of both. Astronomy is an exact science. Because of what we know about astronomy today, we can, with computers, go back and examine what these people said and duplicate it in the sky on a computer so that we can precisely date events. Using the references in the Bible, we've been able to determine that the walls of Jericho fell down on April the 9th, 1421 BC. This would make the first circle around Jericho on April the 3rd of the same year. We can determine this by a solar eclipse that took place on Joshua's long day 10 days later. As we look at the screen, we notice that at 12 noon, over that particular area, the sun was being eclipsed by the moon, as you can see.
We have a great deal of evidence, scientific evidence, that the walls of Jericho have collapsed by an earthquake, just the way described in the Bible. The best evidence are the skeletons that were uncovered in Jericho, 1400 BC, which were obviously destroyed by a collapsed wall.
For many years, scholars thought that the story of Jericho was a mythical legend. When the archaeological evidence is properly interpreted, however, we find it agrees with the Bible in an amazing way. Jericho was a very strongly defended city. It had 2 mud brick walls surrounding it. The archaeological evidence indicates that those mud brick walls collapsed, as described in the Bible, and probably that was due to earthquake. Remnants of that wall are still there today. In fact, I have one of the mud bricks right here. It's about 3,400 years old. Now, if you'll look at this archaeological reconstruction with me, I'll show you how that happened. The city was surrounded by an outer stone revetment wall about 12 feet high. On top of that was a mud brick wall about 18 feet high. This is what the Israelites faced as they marched around the city for 7 days, according to the biblical account. Behind those walls was a massive earthen embankment that surrounded the entire city. At the crest of that embankment was yet another mud brick wall about 18 feet high. On this embankment, there were houses constructed. As the archaeologists excavated within the city, they found abundant evidence that there was earthquake activity at the time the city met its end. When they excavated at the base of this outer stone revetment wall, they found piles of collapsed mud bricks, as we see here in the drawing. Now, even though these mud brick walls collapsed and fell, the stone wall, the 12-foot-high stone wall, is still there today. How did the Israelites get over that? Well, the way that the mud bricks fell, they formed a ramp so that the Israelites could merely go up over that ramp and into the city and set it ablaze. This gave ample evidence that the biblical account was entirely correct. In the Bible, we're told that the walls fell flat. Within the city, they found great quantity of grain. It was very evident that the end came just after harvest time. Again, this agrees with the biblical story. It's very unusual to find large amounts of grain in an ancient site. Here at Jericho, they found in almost every building great jars full of grain. Usually that would have been plundered because it was very valuable. The Bible tells us, however, that the Israelites were forbidden to plunder the city, that it was to be offered up to God. The fact that there was a lot of grain there indicates that there was a very short siege of the city. The Bible says the siege lasted but 7 days. All of the details that the archaeologists have found agree precisely with the biblical narrative.
As we said at the start, the book of Joshua is very controversial. What is the weight of the evidence offered? In this case, while the doubts are mighty and challenging, there's no evidence at all that the occurrences described in the book of Joshua did not happen. The skeptics only raise doubts whether these things did happen. On the other side, the strongest scientific, archaeological, and historical evidence has demonstrated that everything the Bible stated could have happened, and probably did, just as the Bible describes this event.